And we are live, episode 111. Joined with us today is Meis.
Meis.
Hey guys, I am honored with the two IDs, Annie Square.
Yep, that's how it goes. That's how it is.
Welcome.
But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. This is going to be a blast. So yeah, go ahead, introduce yourself. Let the world know who you are, what you do.
All right, no pressure. Right, so I'm Meis. You guys found me via Yalla Let's Talk, which is a media events platform. And I actually run my own podcast called Third Culture Talks. So I'm an editor-in-chief of Yalla Let's Talk online magazine, and I host and produce the podcast for them. And that's what I do. But before that, so I've been with them for over a year, but seriously since February. And before that, I was in law. So I left that whole corporate life for the creative, I don't know when my next paycheck is coming life, but I'm loving it. It's a good time to be doing that during the pandemic because I don't want to be going to no offices.
Wow. I was told when I was a kid growing up that you have to be a doctor, you have to be a lawyer, you have to be an engineer. But you made it. You're a lawyer.
I did. I left. I was like, I could always come back to that. Like right now, let me flex my creative muscle.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm kind of the same in that sense because I'm now in like university, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not necessary. As soon as I get my degree, you know, I'm going to work in a hospital or something. I might just continue doing this for who knows how long.
What do you study at university? Do you do medicine?
Yeah, medicine.
Oh damn, that's a serious degree to be like, let's see where it goes. How long is it where you guys are? Because here it's like 5 or 6 years.
I see. Well, for us it's like 6 or 7 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it depends on how stupid you can be, you know. So it's 7 years for me.
What about other ID?
Yes, I'm in Los Angeles right now. I'm a behavioral therapist, is what I work as, and I'm a filmmaker. Make movies.
Oh, sick. Mm-hmm. I love that. So then I take you're the one that edits all of this.
Tiago.
Sure. Sure, why not? Sure. No, we have an editor.
Okay.
Shout out.
We do as well. Like you could learn it, or you even if you know it, you could do it, but it just takes so much more time in between like planning, prepping, getting guests and all that. Yeah, I have an audio engineer as well.
Well, yeah. You have an audio engineer, and like for your page, like do you do the designs and stuff, or do you have someone that for Yalla Let's Talk?
Oh, so we have like a template. So the same person, shout out Yumna, who did our cover art, did some like social media templates, but I get bored really easily of the same thing. So I will take them and take inspiration from them and like switch it up. And like, it's all like on Canva and Keynote. So it's super, super basic, but yeah, no, I do it. I would get like, not saying I have control issues, but if someone else did it and they did it wrong, that would bother me more. So I'd rather spend time doing it myself. Like, you know, when you have your own vision, I sound like it's like art. It's social media.
I mean, it is a vision at the end of the day. You know?
Well, what is the vision for Yalla Let's Talk?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, so we've grown quite quickly since we changed our vision. When I joined them, I think it's almost been a year. So August last year, I came across their page just by chance. I was just scrolling. I was attending a lot of events in London, trying to figure out what I wanted to do instead of law. And then I think one of her sponsored posts was like, oh, like, come do this, come attend our event with like other Arabs who discuss things that are stigmatized or underrepresented and things like that. So I went to click on the event and I saw that it was in Toronto. So I was like, man. So I contacted them being like, can I bring that concept to London? Because we definitely have a huge Arab community here.
Oh, yeah.
And everyone's, a huge. So I was like, we all are looking for something to bring us all together and have that like halal to haram ratio. So I contacted them and they were like, yeah, bring it to London. So hosted my first event with them last December. And it was
Meis, what's the halal to haram ratio?
Yeah, you can't just drop that and walk by it like it's not even anything. That's not how it goes.
Like, it's that ratio of like someone who can like hang with the West and like, you know, you listen to the music here, you are here, you're a little bit liberated, but you still don't want to lose your roots. You don't want to be like, quote unquote, a whitewashed Arab who can't pronounce your name properly. You don't know when Ramadan is and all those things. Like,
I know people that are like this.
I know people are like I honestly, like, I remember back when before I got married and I was like dating, trying to find someone. And like some Iraqi guy asked me out and I was like, oh my God, Iraqi Muslim, like this could be it. And he asked me out for drinks and I was like, yo, it's like Ramadan. He's like, oh, And I'm like, oh, okay, nah. Swipe. We're not doing that. So you want someone who like is in touch but isn't exactly like our parents. So that's the halal to haram ratio. And
I
everyone's ratio
see.
is different.
So you're looking for someone who knows his roots, he just doesn't follow them or go by them.
Doesn't like to the T. Like he knows how to integrate and code switch and things like that. Like, you know, like we're talking about how our parents want us to be doctors, lawyers, engineer. Like if I go with someone who's completely that side, then they would maybe look down about the fact that I would leave the legal world to do something creative. They'd be like, oh, you can do the creative on the side. Whereas like, no, these things take equal amounts of time. Like not everything is a hobby. Like anything artistic isn't just a hobby. So yeah.
Yep.
Did that, hosted an event, it was a success. Then they had a conference in February, which I emceed. It was like 400 Arabs in North America. It was super cool. It was a bit like TEDx, but a lot more interactive. And then after that, COVID happened. So we had to move everything online. And the vision for that is basically, if anything, it made it more global. And it's just trying to amplify different Arab narratives. Like we come in all shapes and sizes, different interests, different background. Like there shouldn't just be one stereotype. And the more there is of us out there accessible, the more representation we have. And I guess it also normalizes things that people might have stigma or stereotypes about what Arabs are like, especially in the media. If there's more of us out there doing different things, then it kind of normalizes this. And if the good outweighs the bad representation, then it puts us in a better position. So
I mean, let's not let them know. I mean, I'd rather them stick with the one thing about us Arabs, because like I know Arabs to the T, you know. So it's like let them know just that one fact. Because if they know every stigma, oh, thank
well,
you.
they can know the positives as well. Like there's so much great as well. It's not always. But yeah,
there isn't any positives. There isn't any positives. What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? What are the positives you're referring to?
Yeah,
I mean,
like
if the stigma they have of us is that we're like, do you guys watch a lot of Netflix shows? Have you watched Elite? I'm like going out on LinkedIn. Okay.
No.
So it's like a Spanish show, a Netflix original. And like there's finally, I was like, ooh, there's like one Arab family on there. So there's Arab students in their high school and like they're top of the class and all that, which is a good stereotype. It's fine that we work hard. You know, she's hijabi, and then as soon as she falls in love with a white guy, she takes it off. And she's all oppressed at home and all that. She's like, no, and she goes to school, takes it off, hides it in her bag, and like does all these things. And like, you know, the dad has a heart attack when he finds out, and like she's like can't have a life outside of anything like that. And then he wants to take her out of studies because she's focusing on the wrong thing. And it's like that just amplifies the stereotype that we're oppressed. And like that's a bad stereotype. And like we aren't like that. We are like my dad would not have a heart attack if I was spending too much time in school with my friends. I would hope.
True, but there are like women who are hijabi that like just are at home, but as soon as they go out, they're moving. You know, there is. It's not like we're saying there isn't.
No, there 100% is, but there's so many different ones. So like whenever there's one narrative that's being amplified and the spotlight's on that, people who don't know how to do maybe the research or things like that assume that they're all like that, and that's how generalization happens. So if we can amplify different kind of narratives, then there is a range. Whereas like I was having this discussion on the podcast because we spoke about reputation. Like if Tom Hardy is playing a role, no one will go out and assume that like all white British guys are exactly like Tom Hardy, because he could play anything from the villain to the hero and they don't care because there's millions of other white actors doing that.
You're in London, right? I wish all English white guys are like Tom Hardy. God damn. There's nothing like Tom Hardy. Jeez. Literally, they're nothing like him, bro. He's like a one of a dude. Because I go to London like
they're like John Oliver. They're like John Oliver there. More
I would think. Let's see.
Whereabouts in London do you stay though? That's a question.
South by King's College, I think, is where my sister's.
Okay, all right. So it's quite central then. Yeah.
More like Austin Powers there.
Hey. You can kind of say, kind of, you know. It's like very, very not like Tom Hardy, which I kind of wish there was. That would have been cool. You know, hanging out with a bunch of like badass English guys who kill people for like.
Yeah, it's either that or they think that it's like everyone's like Harry Potter or like, you know, Jamie. Like,
that's a more accurate description.
There's certain areas you can find it more like that. They're like dweeby guys with the accent. Yeah.
But if I was to describe people from England, especially the guys, it's like Adidas from head to toe. You know what I'm talking about. You know exactly what I'm talking about. The windbreaker Adidas 3 stripes all black.
Yeah. The roadman.
Roadman.
And everyone's a roadman. It's not even a race thing. Like everyone wears the puffer jacket and it's 20 degrees outside. Right now, it's 21 degrees and everyone's wearing a puffer jacket. They're like, oh yeah, sweet winter. man's not hot and all that. Like that's not a stereotype.
It's literally like that, bro. Especially that's like their ghetto dress, you know. Like in the US, you got the
But they
whole
spend
bag.
so much money on it. Like they go to Stony Island, like they'll spend like 1K on the jacket to look good.
You know, yeah, it's like
That's a British stereotype that you've got down to a T. Yeah.
It is. I mean, that's not even a stereotype at this point.
Yeah.
This is just the truth, you know. But yeah, so I see an Iraqi necklace on you for our Spotify listeners,
Hey.
in case you're listening on Spotify. So where from Iraq are you, to be exact?
So my family is from Baghdad, and I think the area is called
The cap.
Kavniya.
Ooh.
But I've never been. I was born in Sweden, and then since then there was just like not really safe to go. And my mom went the first time maybe 5-6 years ago again. So when I ordered this necklace, she opened it. She was like, of course, because you open your mail. Even though I don't live here anymore, I get stuff delivered here. She was like, Shinahai, which is like, what is this?
Yeah.
So I was like, yes, the thing. She's like, you're so patriotic. Like, I don't even wear the Iraqi necklace. I was like, no, but it's like cool. Like, we want a connection to back home because we've never been back home, but we still call it that.
We've never been. Have you been to
Fun
Arabia?
fact about
I would love to
Kavniya.
go.
Have you been to Arabia at all? Kuwait, Dubai.
Oh,
Lebanon?
yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I've been to everywhere that's like, I guess touristy and safe. So I've been to like the UAE, I've been to Qatar, I've been to Egypt, I've been to Tunis, Morocco, all those countries where you can go and you stay. But like, no, I've actually not ever been to my own like home country, my roots, and I would love to go one day.
I mean, by the way, it's safer than you think. I can tell you that.
Yeah,
as a
it
fact.
Yeah, my mom said that. I was like, ooh, okay, like I should go, and then
You should.
this
It's very
happened. Yeah.
beautiful. By the way, Kadmiya was named Kadmiya after the Al-Qadim, which were a branch from my tribe. Just saying. So there you go.
Shammari.
Sorry, Abu Ali, feeling left out.
I'm kind of.
I know. It's cool. It's cool. You should go to Beirut too, bro.
Should go to
Beirut are
Beirut.
like super
Yes,
fun.
Have you ever
dude. I
get
go.
stopped by Lebanon?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, before the whole incident and the whole like bullshit that's happening, how many times did I used to come? Like twice a year, I used to go to Beirut.
Oh man, I regret every wedding I didn't go to that was in Beirut because like
Oh,
I
man,
always
you
knew it was
missed out.
beautiful, it was like lit, the people are fun, there's like so much to do there, like it's alive. And I like going to Arab countries for that reason. Like having, for me, I grew up in Sweden where I was born and raised, and in the UK, like weekdays life stops. Like if you go to a restaurant, they stop serving food at 10 p.m.
Wow.
No one's out with their kids. Like 6 o'clock, everyone's at home because it's cold and no one's socializing unless they're going to the pub. And like when I go to the UAE, people are like at the mall with their kids at 2 a.m. And I'm like, oh, this is lit. Like, I like it. There's like life and people, like haraka, as we call it in like in Arabic.
For
It's like,
people who
there's
invented time, we really don't respect it.
like,
No.
and especially if you go in Ramadan, everyone's like having suhoor at 4 a.m. like out because you know we're not going to work next day.
Yeah, it
So,
never stops. in
I
Ramadan.
love that. Like there's like life, and I wish I'd go to it for that reason.
Honestly, when I'm out like in the European countries for months and months on end, it feels amazing to come home. And like I have a friend who is Arab that does live in London. The first time he came to like, I think he went to Dubai. He's like, for a country that you don't see a lot of Arabs in, you know, I felt at home.
100%.
You know, you feel like you're at home when you go back to an Arab country after spending forever in Europe, which is, it's actually not discussed. Like it's a common, like unwritten rule, which is
100%.
really
Yeah, even for people who have never lived. I mean, I've never lived in an Arab country, but I feel so at peace. Even when I go to like Egypt, when my friends have weddings there, and I'm like in Cairo and going to the salons and everything, even just seeing like Arabic letters on the signs, you're like, like you feel welcome. And like you never feel like you're foreign, even though you are foreign. And my Arabic is really quite weak, but still, like you feel like you're part of it.
Your
I
Arabic,
mean,
yeah. Your English.
from what I've heard so far, it's actually not bad. You still got that stuff.
It's true. You could be like us, where it's like I can't speak too much English nor too much Arabic at this point.
Us, bro, I'm good at both.
I speak for myself. I speak for myself.
Okay, wait. What language do you guys think in?
Me? Mix.
Mixed. Depends on, it depends on how I'm feeling.
That's me.
Depends on what I'm
But
thinking
mostly
about.
Arabic.
Depends on, I mean, mostly English for me, but mostly it depends
Are
on.
you for you mostly English? Because you
Mostly
live all the
Arabic?
same things.
Yeah.
For me, I think in Arabic actually.
That's great.
But
Really?
sometimes
You're speaking
English.
in
Yeah, I do.
English. You can like, you speak English. I mean, like you
It's
think
probably-
in Arabic and then
Yeah.
you speak in English.
Wait,
That's
so
why
which one?
sometimes
So
my-
I find
That's
that
why
really
sometimes, like,
fascinating. Because like
it's
when I
'cause-
moved, yeah.
Go ahead. I was gonna say that's why sometimes I get stuck when I'm like doing a monologue at the end. I'm like, what's that word? What's that word? I know what an
And it's something really basic that you just forget.
Yeah, it is. It is. I'm just like, that word I can't. Like,
And you have to like reverse Google Translate where you write in Arabic and then see what's the English word for it.
Pretty much, yeah.
No,
So for me, it's
like,
mainly.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I wonder. If
I used to think
Arabic.
in Swedish, and people kept asking me when I moved here because I moved from Sweden when I was 14 to the UK. Stayed in the Swedish schooling system till university, so I only had Swedish people around me till I was 19. And when I went to uni, everyone was like, what language do you think in? I'm like, Swedish, of course. But somewhere along the line, now I think in English. And sometimes I'll count in Swedish, but when I'm cooking, I'll think in Arabic because the only cooking I have is from my mom. So there's so many spices where I don't know the name for them in English. Like I'll be like, oh, snowber, kazbara, kurkum. And I'm like, okay, wait, how do I Google this? How do I find it in the supermarket? I'll have to go to like the foreign supermarkets.
Kusa, eggplants.
Yeah, exactly. What is eggplant? Like Betinjan. Like I have no idea what that is.
What?
Yeah, eggplant. Well, we call it aubergine in the UK. US call it eggplant. At home we
Arabic,
call it
it's called
Betinjan.
Okay, cool. Close
Not
enough.
Bithingen. John.
No, that's Egypt. You just took a left when we're going straight.
You have to pronounce it with the harsh j.
Yeah. Or in Kuwaiti Bedinyan. I mean, it all goes.
It's all right. It's all the same. We all get it.
It's all the same, you know. But yeah, so here's what I want to do. Let's put you on the spot real quick. We're turning this to an Arabic podcast from here on out.
Oh no!
السلام عليكم وعليكم السلام.
هنسويها. هل نسويها؟
نعم.
هنشوف.
انت
ايش كثر تسولف فيه؟
هنشوف.
خلينا نشوف. يلا. هذه كلمة عراقية. خلينا نشوف. هاي عراقية.
هلا انت
أنا المشكلة مالتي أنا لهجة عراقية فما أعرف أحد مو عراقي so لازم كلش
كويتي جيرانكم.
Like focus. I thought I'm doing it. I'm gonna Google some of these words.
You're doing it right. You're going right. By the way, Kuwait's dialect, half of it is Iraqi, the other half is Saudi.
Yeah.
There's a small sprinkle of Persian in the mix.
Yeah, it's when the other Ali talks that I'm gonna get confused. If you have like a proper Lebanese accent, then I'm gonna get.
كيفك اليوم؟
كيفك؟ شو الموضوع؟
We don't كيفك. We're like شلونك؟
شلونك؟ شو أخبارك؟ You know.
شو أخبارك؟
I mean, like your Arabic isn't that bad compared to some people that I know.
Well, shukran for someone who never lived in an Arabic country.
Yeah. How did you learn Arabic? Was it just through like your family?
Just from home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it is from home. The annoying thing is it would just be my parents trying to speak Arabic with me. I answer them in Swedish. And my cousins, we all spoke English even when we lived in Sweden because my uncle's wives grew up either in the US or the UK. So we'll mix so much. So when I go back to school after summer, like I did not know like what word was what. It was everywhere. But no, I can read and write though. So I'm very proud of myself for doing that.
Oh, wow.
Like I'll WhatsApp my mom in Iraqi and I feel like, but not like when you read and write in Arabic school on the weekend, it's Fusha. So then I had to then relearn how to write like normal people speak.
I mean,
but
you want to talk like
I'm working on it.
You gotta live the streets, real G's. You know how it be.
I grew up watching all those like American shows like Dexter's Laboratory, but in Arabic, but in Fusha.
Oh my God.
هيا يا دexter إلى اللابراتوري الآن.
Dubbed Arabic films, they're such deep voices. They're such like men. I used to be terrified of like Arabic Iftah Ya Simsim, like Sesame Street, because it have like such like, you know, I didn't know that Elmo was meant to be cute. Like Elmo's meant to be like, oh, tickle me Elmo. But with us is like, Wahid, Fnin. Like it sounds like someone's like preparing me from the army to fight when they're counting, and I have to be terrified. Mom's like,
is this a nuclear war countdown? I don't know what's going on.
So scary.
But yeah, this is true. No, see, I was made fun of a lot for speaking in English by my cousins living in Kuwait because I went to an English school, right? And they didn't. So that's why now I'm forced to think and speak in Arabic whenever I'm out. But when I'm doing this podcast, especially because I live in Jordan.
Yeah.
Now, that's where I go to university, right? And they teach in Arabic, they speak in Arabic, but the exam's in English.
What?
That just, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That makes no sense because what if we need the terminology?
Yeah.
Know it in Arabic.
This is them. فلما نطلع على الستernocleidomastoid muscle طيب, I'm just like, cool, right, yeah, that, you know, and it's
so they'll mix. That's so confusing.
They don't mix. I wish they mix. They just say the terminology in English and they explain the whole thing in Arabic.
Oh
and it's
my
like
God.
a paragraph's worth of explanation. I'm just like,
So then I take it it's not an international university. You'd have to actually be Arabic speaking to attend, or do they have English, like classes in English as well?
I don't know.
Your video dropped.
Yeah, even Ali's cut out, but I'll answer that. I grew up speaking. Our school was English. My school was like an English school.
Yeah.
And, like, we had Arabic classes, and
Yeah.
some French classes, but no one really learned French. And yeah, it was one of the hardest things for me when I first came to the United States. I've been in the United States for like 4 years now. But the hardest thing.
Oh wait, what age were you when you moved?
I was like
I'm
18,
sorry.
19. I was
Did
like.
you go about what your English school? Was it an American school or a British school where you went?
So I was in a British school in Kuwait, and then
He was
I
with me.
Kuwait for a bit, and then I moved to Lebanon. I was in like an international, I guess, Americanized. But
Salvus
still-
was international Americanized, yeah. it
Sure,
was.
but my speaking, I spoke like my accent was way heavier. Like 4 years from now, like sometimes I look at old clips of myself and I'm like, "Hello, Ali, how are you, my brother, today?"
I like the French accent. Because you both have a bit of an American accent, like quite. I mean, obviously you, because you lived there,
Yeah.
but you both have it. So I assume that the school you went to, because I know in the UAE, like where my cousins went in Saudi, they'd either go to like the British schools or the American schools, and you could always tell when they went to the American schools because it's like quite a strong one. But I think a lot of people that grew up in Arabic countries, if you watched like US shows growing up, then you would have picked up a lot of their like dialects and the twang and the way that they pronounce things.
I mean, I learned my accent from like movies when I was a kid.
Yeah, same.
I watched a lot of movies here, and then I picked up the language before I could even speak. And then
Yeah.
I had to move to England because my grandma had like some surgeries there for a while. Then I came back, Johnny English, and that did not go well with my family. that did not go well with my family. So then I just perfected my American, and like learned the Arabic by force, and
Yeah.
here I am today.
Well, your family didn't rate your British accent when you came back?
Oh no, they did not like that stuff.
Really?
They're
My
like,
family is
yeah.
the opposite. They're like, when are you gonna get a British accent? We lived there for so long. I'm like, I just.
You're right.
I was like, I pick up from where I'm talking. If I'm talking at work, then like certain things that I will pronounce are British, but you're not gonna shake an accent. Once it's like the steady international one, that's the one that's gonna stick with you longest.
That's pretty much, yeah. Well, I kind of have to go to do the rest of my paperwork. That was my dad that came in. That's why I had to kind of quickly, close the cam. But what was your question before I left and before I like did all that stuff? You asked me something.
It was about your
I asked.
Mhm.
No, did I ask if your school was American or thingy? I can't remember.
Oh no, we were in a
A
British
student.
school, and I stayed in that British school. And like I was always told that my English was like on par and very, very good.
On par, I love it. Yeah.
I was quoting a teacher that once told me, "Your English is very on par compared to your classmates." I was like, "Yeah, I know."
Compared to your classmates, you're like, yeah.
I was like, yeah,
Basic classmates.
Pretty much, yeah. Because they would all speak English like this, and they would try to talk like this, and I'm just like, "Yo, what's wrong? What do we got?"
Just
Anyways.
breezing by.
Pretty much. So it was a pleasure meeting you. I'm going to have to leave halfway through the episode. I am so sorry, but
It's
I
all
am
right.
trying.
Arab parents, I get it.
I know.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
I mean, I'm glad you do. But if you ever do come back and jump on it for another episode in the future, believe you me, I will stay the whole thing.
No, I'm happy.
yes,
I'm happy
yes.
to come back. It's been a very
Alright.
chilled experience.
I'll see you, and I'm out. Peace.
All right, peace.
Bye.
Peace.
And
All right. Yeah, amazing. All right, Meis. Yeah, let's continue on. I don't want to take. I think we should continue this with Ali and your team back in the future. But
Yes,
for
100%.
now, but for now, I want to go through like your page, and I want to ask you a little bit more about Yalla. Let's
Yeah,
talk.
please do.
So, what gave you the idea for this? You said you wanted to connect to other
for me,
Arabs.
like the main people, the founders are Hani and Meis, and they're based in Canada. And they started this when they were in university. So it was like first a YouTube channel, and then it became a page, and then it became just events of people meeting up, talking, and all that. So then when I joined them and COVID hit, we had to basically restructure the whole thing. So I wanted to do an online magazine, off-print magazine for a really long time. So I kept pushing like, let's do a magazine, let's do this, let's do a podcast. And so they were like, okay, fine, like we'll continue having it as a brand that does events to bring Arabs together, but we're gonna have to go virtual. So we do the events now on Zoom. I run the magazine, I'm the editor-chief of it, and we just get writers.
This magazine, this site?
Yeah.
All right.
That's my thing. I edit all of those. I work with our writers. Some of them are volunteers. Some of them are like consistent with us. And it's like basically anything from short stories to opinion pieces to anything like that, reviews, interviews. So it's quite like broad, like anyone that has a voice and something to say, we'll bring them on, work on their piece and get it published there. So basically that's what I do. And then the other side is the podcast, because I felt that like, if we now can't have the in-person events, and we had them in, so it was Toronto, Montreal, London, UK, and we were also going to launch somewhere else, and like London, Ontario, and there was going to be like another place as well that was doing it. But if we can't do that, we need to move it all globally, and we have to have it where it's like audio and visual. So if we can't continue doing like the YouTube, because I also have a YouTube channel, so they used to have like, I think it's on the website under videos or like under watch. So it's called the Yalla Show, where they literally like bring a little panel of people, talk about anything from like dating to stigma to Arab parents. Yeah, or we play like games and stuff like that, just to like keep it relatable. If we can't do that stuff.
Yeah, in this video? All right. Okay.
I'm in this video. That was me in the middle.
Yes. All right. Yes. Amazing.
Yeah. And then if you scroll down, there's like other videos where they've done it in like a professional setting, like in a studio and stuff. So I was like, we need to bring it. So like, what can people engage with? What kind of content can they have remotely? So podcasts, huge. Always wanted to do a podcast anyway. Might as well do it under the umbrella of Yalla Let's Talk and call it Third Culture Talks. And people like to read, so let's do a magazine. So like that's where we got that idea, and we've kind of just had to restructure it, and like hopefully when it's safe, whenever that is, we can do the in-person events and the conferences again. But until then, we just want to be accessible to as many people as possible. So it's through those two mediums mainly.
Amazing. All right. Yeah. And I want to ask you about like the kind of people who contribute to this website. What are their backgrounds? You said you're Iraqi, right? Arabian.
So we have, honestly, I think we have everything from Iraqi, Palestinian, Sudanese, Somali, I'm really trying to think, Egyptian. So yeah, like I feel like when we say MENA, we mean MENA. We literally Middle Eastern, North African Arabs are all there. And it's like, I think most of them are millennials. We have a few Gen Z, like younger contributors, because we want to keep it as like broad as possible. But yeah, it's anyone who's a Middle Eastern Arab. And even so, we have people that attend the events or engage with the content on our page that aren't Arabs, but they feel like it relates to them. Because when you come from like similar cultures, there's a lot of cross-cultural commonalities. Like for us, we have like the Desi community, especially in London, is very similar. Like when we're talking about them needing to go for certain jobs, like doctor, lawyer, engineer, pharmacist, like the stable kind of traditional jobs, they have the same thing. Same thing with like my, West African friends. So we felt, okay, you know what? We need another space or page where those people can connect. That's why we started Third Culture Talks as a podcast. So there it's anyone that has moved around or is from any other culture or anything like that, no matter if you're Arab or not. So we needed like almost like a sister page to the page that we have, and that's what Third Culture is.
Amazing. I think it's really cool what you're doing, Meis, and we've been trying to do that also, and like with our podcast, trying to have like different kinds of Arab.
Oh, you have such a wide variety. I always scroll through the Instagram, and I'm like, ooh, who's gonna be on there next? And their backgrounds in terms of what they do for a living and their interests, super, super interesting.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, but like for us, I think it's like really cool, like bringing different Arabs and seeing how much we like have in common. I feel like our parents and like the older generation have maybe like a kind of stigma against other Arabs, like like in Lebanon, like we not make fun of, but like like people make fun of the racists.
Yeah, they do.
Racists.
Yeah.
But like us young people, we can connect and we can. You're doing something.
I think that's got to do as well with the fact for them, if they're living in Lebanon, or my parents, if they're living in Iraq, there's so many people like them, so they don't feel the need to connect with others. Like, their neighbor is Iraqi, the whole village is Iraqi. Whereas if we're like what they call the children of the diaspora, where we live outside of home, we live in West, we look for any similarities we can find. Like someone who's Arab, oh, they speak Arabic. Okay, they also do this, or they might also be Muslim or whatever. Or if you're like an Arab Coptic and you meet another one, any similarities you have, you cling on to them, and that's like your group. And you don't have the luxury of being like, oh, they also have to be Iraqi and from Baghdad and from that area. So all the specifics kind of just melt away. And I think that's what our generation is doing really well, where we're just connecting on the two things we have in common rather than the 10 things that we have that's different.
Amazing. No, all right. Yeah, sounds good. And one of the things I just thought of that like is maybe like also very new for Arabia is that I mean, like, you're a woman running this network, right? And like going on and talking to different people and stuff. And that's like, for like a long while, I know of the stigma where like guys in Arabia are like, yes, men do the talking, women they sit down and they do the listening. Don't interfere in men's conversations. Right. And for us, it's like, well, we've met a lot of brilliant women, and that's not the case. So like, how did you, like, I don't know, what do you feel, any pushback? Just like trying to.
So you know what's weird is that I never felt pushback once I started YLT, but before that, like growing up, I was always told that I shouldn't be so outspoken or opinionated because it might like either scare men away, or like I should like wait quietly and see what their opinion is. Not so much from my own family, but just from the community in general. Like if you're loud, you're like misbehaving basically, and being loud is just you entering the conversation. Like it's not even like you being loud and yelling. So when I found this, I was like, okay, like this is what I like to do. I like to connect people and stuff like that. And if I'm in a community that's a bit more traditional and backwards, they might think that me coming on a podcast with like two guys is like, oh, what does she want? Does she want to flirt with them? And like, oh, does her husband let her? Because I'm married. And my husband is so supportive of these things. Like, he was so excited for me. He's like, oh, what are you guys going to talk about? I'm like, we haven't planned anything. We're just going to chat. And if I was living maybe back home, that would be an issue. Is like, why is she on Zoom with two men? Like, what are they talking about? How does she know these people?
But 100%. But like, actually, that's like people who are not Arabs listening to this. These are like thoughts that like people actually think about. They're like, she's a woman talking to two men on Zoom. Like, what does she want, or whatever, like stuff like that.
Because like when I went to the conference in February in Toronto for Yellow Let's Talk, so I told you guys it was like 400 guests, many speakers, and I was emceeing, so I was the one introducing all the guests on stage. And somebody actually asked me, be like, oh, but how did your husband let you travel without him? And like, what does he think about this? I was like, let me, he's not my dad, it's one thing. Like, so it's like, it's weird because like for me, I don't really have that in my community and my family as much. They're very supportive of like women amplifying their own voices and taking charge. But the fact that someone who could be 28, 29 can also still feel that even if they grew up in the West means that that kind of, you know, stereotype and that kind of thinking for the listeners is very much still there. And the more that we break that stigma and break that stereotype, the more it's going to be normalized.
No, amazing. Yeah, amazing work to you and to all the great smart women doing great stuff. I want to ask about your background in law. Why did you get into law?
So it was very much the typical, I need to do the stable job. I was initially picking what we call here, like, well, in Sweden, we do a version of A-levels, but I was doing it here, which is like 16 topics. And my main was like maths, physics, chemistry, biology. So I was meant to do medicine. But then it came to like 2 weeks before the uni application. So medicine you apply to in December and everything else is the following year. So I was actually sitting like in Sweden over Christmas, like with my uncle, and I was like, I really don't want to do this. I don't want to do medicine. I don't find biology interesting or anything like that. I'm not going to enjoy 5-6 years of it. So we were sitting like, okay, what would you enjoy? What are you good at? So I was like, okay, like we got down to the fact that I like arguing, I like talking, I like reading. What can we do about that's like acceptable? Law. So I went into law, and when I was there, I really was interested in doing intellectual property mostly. Then when you graduate here, it's very different. I know in the US you do like the undergrad and then you do law after that. But then once you graduate, you know, you've qualified in it and you become an associate. Is that it?
Yeah.
Here, the law kind of only really exists as an undergrad when you go to uni. And after that, there's so many different routes you can take. Yeah, so you do the 3 years and then you're on your own. Anything after that you do is a master's, which is quite expensive, and then you're not guaranteed a job after that. So you could do like, you can be a solicitor or a legal exec or a barrister. So after uni, you work for a very long time so that you can get the experience so that you can go on to be qualified. So I had been working then for maybe 5.5 years after university before I quit my job in February. And I was still doing civil litigation. And to break into anything I wanted, you needed experience in it. But if no one gives you experience, you're not going to get it.
Yes.
And it's very like, yeah, exactly.
You can't get a job without experience. You can't get an experience without a job, right? And
exactly. So I've been there and I was dealing with like negligence cases and things like that, which is like super tiring and I didn't really enjoy it. And when you're still labeled a paralegal and you do like 90% of the work and you get paid a fifth of what the person above you that just signs off the case does. So I was like, okay, I was furthering my qualifications to get qualified and I still have one exam left, which I'll do post-COVID anyway. And I was passing them and I was like, you know what? I'm going to be sitting at home for God knows how long when it hit. Let me just focus on something else. I can always come back to it. I can always do my exam next year and see where it takes me. But right now there is just such an overflow of law students and a shortage in actual law jobs. So I left that in that sense. I still have almost the qualifications of it. I have a lot of experience. I get all the family members and family friends calling me being like, can you take care of my parking ticket, which has nothing to do with law, just pay it. So I have to give the free legal advice still,
That's
even though I'm
hilarious.
not in the field anymore. But yeah, that's kind of like, I did that because I didn't want to do medicine, but I still don't really know if that's what I want to go back to after this is all done.
After this is all
really
done?
enjoying this.
All right, wait.
Yeah.
So this is, what do you mean? What is
Well, after the pandemic kind of thing, like
I see what you mean.
Because people still don't go to, I don't know how it is where you are, but people are still working from home here. Like no one goes into
Yeah, and I
office.
still, yes. It's still,
So it's like, if I'm going to be in front of a computer working by myself at home, I might as well be self-employed, or I might as well do what I want to do. Like there's no interaction with people. A lot of my friends are not getting more experience while they're at home because no one can train them. So I was like, let me use this time to do something different. And then if I feel like I still want to go back to law in a year's time, I can always do that. But right now I'm really enjoying the magazine and I'm really enjoying the podcast.
amazing. Wonderful. Is there like a cause or like a specific case that would make you want to like pick up like doing like law again, like, or?
I think human rights cases would.
We have a lot of that in the Middle East.
We have a lot of that, and it's something I feel quite passionate about. But again, that route here is very blurred. So I didn't realize like how blurry and unstructured the legal field is, especially for someone new, until I spoke to my uncle who lives in Dallas. He lives in Dallas, Texas. And he was like, what are you talking about? Like, we pay our paralegals like $80K a year. And I'm like, yeah, we don't get paid that here.
Yeah.
So it's like really, and like they are IP paralegals. And if you're a general one, you get 50. So they get paid more than some of our qualified here. So I was like, if it was clear, I would maybe love to go back into to do it. And then human rights, if it was something, I mean, shout out Amal Clooney, but that would be really cool to get into. Or yeah, I think that stuff where it's actually a cause and there's a purpose behind it, but it wouldn't be money or something that just like status driven. Back then I thought if I wanted to do intellectual property, I might get really into copyright and how cool would it be to work for Netflix? But now I'm like, no, like I'll watch Netflix. I don't want to work for them. Like that sounds like long, but yeah, if it was something human rights related, it would be very cool to get back into that if the opportunity presented itself.
I mean, you know, there are opportunities all over, right? So many people like in the Middle East are going through like a lot of humanitarian crises, and you seem like a very smart, very energetic, very passionate person about your cause. And I mean, I hope to see you at some time in the future, hopefully picking on fighting a good cause.
Would be great. That would be amazing.
That'd be amazing. What are some things you think like in the Middle East that are like the most concerning issues, I guess, from your knowledge and experience?
I mean, for me, I don't know how much I can say on here, but it is just straight up human rights violations that happen. Like, I know it's a very, people are really scared to talk about Israel and Palestine and if they want one state or two state. Right now, it's not about which territory belongs to who. It's just about the fact that you need to treat them fairly and like human beings, and that they should have access to medicine. And I've seen so many times in the news as well where they've just withheld their like parcels that are meant to go for them. And some of it could be like a wheelchair for someone's grandmother. It could be medicine to someone who's insulin intolerant. And okay, put your politics aside, whoever wants to have claim to whatever land and annex and all that, let's not get into that, but just treat them like human beings, because things that happen there on a daily basis are violations of people's human rights, and that is the bare minimum of what they deserve and their standard of living. And then aside from that, like again, not getting into the political side of what's happening in Yemen, but the famine there is on a huge level. Like that's and no aid is really being sent. And the issue is as well, when it's governments that you can't control and people can't influence, even if someone was sending aid, where is it really going? Is it actually going to the people? And I had like a friend who, before the explosion happened in Beirut, they were all saying like, don't donate to the Red Cross, don't donate to this, because it doesn't actually reach these people. So many people gave money for it to go to Haiti after the earthquake, and the money never reached those people that needed it. So they're like, if you're gonna donate to something, do it with where it's like verified that it's people on the ground. It's gonna be like medical aid or food or all these things. So I think that like sometimes when I was saying I'm passionate about human rights issues or human rights violations, but it's like, how can we help them? That's the problem, because if we're here and they're there, even if you donate, you don't even know if it's going to go to them. And that's the unfortunate thing, is you feel like maybe you've helped someone. So the most recent thing that I did donate to was so people that save women from the people that abuse the kafala system. So there's this, I think it's called This Is Lebanon. Yeah.
Sure. Yes.
And they actually tell you exactly like, okay, if you donate 50, it goes to like a sanitary bag and a call for them back home, for them to contact their family back home. If it's 200, it will be a bus ticket to this area and then shelter for this many nights. So when you see that and you see the journey and the update you, then you feel a bit more secure. But when it's big organizations like Red Cross and UNICEF, you don't know who is going to, and it's also a big organizations, they have overheads and they have employees to pay. So that's not where I want money to go. I wanted to help the people. And I think that's something that a lot of maybe diasporic Arabs have in common, where we feel a bit helpless and you get a bit of survivor's guilt, whereas like, wow, it's actually just like a postcode lottery where my family, and they left Iraq in time for me not to be a victim of all these things. And my husband's half Palestinian. And he also could have grown up there, but he grew up here. So it's like we've lucked into this privilege of actually having food, shelter, water, rights. Or being able to speak out about these things on social media. I know my friends that live back in Arab countries, if they post anything that's got to do with how the government is doing something, it gets taken down, it's blocked, and
that's
and
funny.
They get
Ali always starts an episode with like, don't talk about anything that can separate this from this, because there are some topics.
Exactly. So like they can't talk about it. We can talk about it, but we can't do anything about it. So it's kind of like our hands are tied and we don't know what to do. And I feel like people are thinking about solutions of that even more so now that we've been home for 8 months, or we've all been on TikTok and Twitter and social media. We're learning about so many other issues, but it's actually just, you're learning about them, but what can you do about them?
What can you do? I feel like everyone's helpless, as you said, like helpless in the moment. Especially everyone feels like America's doing this to us, or Russia, and we feel like we're in the middle of like all these powers, just like whatever, like, and like we just want to be not suffering in like the Middle East all the time. And
I was talking to my friends in actually a friend in LA, and I was like, who are you gonna vote for? And a lot of them are like, does it matter? Like, it doesn't matter who's in power, because it's been the same for decades, whether it's this party or that party, this person or that person, people of color or not. Like sometimes maybe it's just a front and people will do what they want to do anyway. So they're kind of like, I mean, I feel like our generation are not giving up hope, but we're criticizing and thinking a lot more about the people in power and what are they doing really to help the ones that need it.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. Yeah, a lot of people feeling helpless. I know a lot of people, especially in Lebanon, after this explosion, who just like left the country, just like straight out.
We're done now. It's not like it's giving us nothing but misery, and like I can 100%.
I mean, I did the same thing, so I mean a couple years back, so I can't like but it's these are difficult conversations, because you're leaving your home, but going where? Like, what do you like? What one of the few things you do have is your home, and like for people like you and me, who are like not there, like not at home, I'm like just saying like, hey, just like I really want to be there, I really want to be there, I really want to move back, and it's like you really don't know how much you're missing. Being with a family and a culture
100%.
and the food and the people, you feel like at peace. Right.
And the sense of community you have, like I only really have, because my dad's side, all of them are out and in Europe or the US, so I see them. But my mom's side, I have very little connection with them, and that's like a whole family that I could have had. And then their friends, and then there's the community, and everyone in the neighborhood are really there for each other. Like they don't even lock their doors because their neighborhood is so safe and they trust everyone. So it's like all that is like something that here you don't know your neighbor's name. Even if you live in a block of flats and they're like 1 meter from your door, you don't know their name. And that's something that culture and community is something that I feel like I've missed out on. And that's also why I would love to go when it's safe to see that side. It's like to connect with your roots as well.
That's funny you say that, how like you don't even know your neighbor's name. It's like, most people don't know anyone living around them or their neighbors. For me, it's kind of different. I like to bring like a little bit of my like Arabic into like my life, where I'm like, I knock on the neighbors, hello neighbor.
Hi, we're new.
Yes, nice to meet you, my neighbor. I come with bearing gifts. Here's some baklava straight from my country. But like, no, I still have like a lot of, I mean, speaking of gifts and stuff, like I love hospitality. I love having, for me, it's like friendship and community is one of the top priorities, versus like I feel like in a lot of Western countries like the United States, I'm not sure about the UK, people don't care about each other as much. People don't care
it's very individualistic. They don't think about the collective as much.
Mm-hmm.
Like they kind of, and even their idea of family is the core family. It's like mom, dad, and my sibling. Like when you ask them, like, when did you last see your cousin? They're like, oh, I have one cousin on my dad's side. I saw them at a wedding 10 years ago. And I'm like I have to see them. Like we see each other on a monthly or weekly basis if they live nearby, and we go on holiday with them and we do all that. So it's like, for me, it's so foreign that you would consider your family is just that core family. Like you have the core and extended, but that doesn't really, like, it doesn't really exist here.
It doesn't, yeah. And for like, I think another one of the issues, especially now that we're all online, the kind of like, you talked about like individualist versus collectivist. I feel like people are becoming more grouped up, but they're grouping up online, and they're grouping up for the wrong ideas. They're grouping up because of like whatever gender, race, whatever, or like background they're from, but not actually like real people living next to you, real neighbors, real community. Like, why are you trying to, I don't know, make friends? I mean, it's good to make friends and reach out. I mean, we met online, but like if I met like my actual neighbor, real person. Yes.
100%.
Wow. Amazing, Meis.
We really had rethought how we think of social media. Is like, yes, we did meet online, but like we should make friends in our own area. Like,
yeah, I mean, COVID really changes that stuff up, and I feel like the one good thing of COVID, I feel like Arabs maybe now have more access to technology. Like my mom knows how to use Zoom now. She knows how to use Zoom.
Yeah, 100%. You know, before when it would be like a small request, like how do I mute this? You just do it on their phone and give it back to them. But when you're around them, you're like, I'm going to show you, and you are going to feel empowered to do it yourself. Like my mom does all her own online stuff, online shopping. Amazing. She knows how to attach files to emails and go see below. So I'm like, yes, mom. Like, look at you all the only time that it wasn't good is at the beginning of the whole pandemic and lockdown, when all the WhatsApp aunties were forwarding the same fake articles and fake news. Lemon and honey will kill the coronavirus.
Lemon and honey.
Yes, it is, because it's been shared 100 times. It's like, that doesn't make it true.
That is so funny. That's so funny. Amazing. Meis, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. This was awesome.
Yes, much pleasure. I really like.
Anytime you guys want to guest, I'm free, and I'll bring my host with me. We'll arrange between your time, Jordan, Canada, and the UK, and then we can do this.
We'll definitely make it happen. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Awesome, Meis. Well, yeah, you guys can check out Yellow Let's Talk, Third Culture Talks, the podcast, like all that stuff. Is there anything else you want to shout out or say?
No, just at Third Culture Talks or at Yellow Let's Talk, hit us up and engage with us. Come to our events. They're all online and all free.
And let's keep the conversations going. Yes. Like, subscribe, share.
Tell a friend to tell a friend.
Yeah, why not? And gossip about this, sure.
Absolutely.
You guys, this is how we sign out, Meis. Salute to cover the cam, and toodaloo.